right, what's up, you guys? We are back with Behind the Bikini. It is episode 92, and we obviously are in different locations this time. Jordan is over there in for Junior USA. Starts out tomorrow with the women on Friday, so it's going to be a heck of a weekend this weekend. So, what we thought about talking about today is just kind of talking about the significance of the national shows and specifically this one being the first one of the year, and kind of go into just what we're expecting to see, what we're looking for, and all that kind of fun stuff. So, how's everything going over there so far?
It's good. Super busy, but we got 19 athletes here with Fit Body Fusion, and we're bringing a lot of really amazing physiques. I'm
Yeah,
very going to be a really fun day tomorrow. So we'll see
yeah.
what happens.
Oh, before I forget, like, comment, subscribe, click the buttons. There, we got it.
Yes.
Always forget to do that. And we're gonna apologize in advance because we've had some technical difficulties on the last few episodes. Something having to do with the streaming service. So I'm hoping that I got it right this time, but there's a big workaround to try to get around bugs and all this kind of crap. You gotta love technology. It's supposed to make your life easier, you know what I mean? But anyway, so Junior States is where you won your pro card, right?
It is. It is. So I
Yeah.
won my two.
So talk a little bit about the process of this particular show, because every national show is a little bit different when it comes to how you actually qualify for your pro card. So talk a little bit about that one about that for this one.
Yeah, so the show is a little bit harder to get the pro card because it's a little different than other national shows. You have to win your class, but not only do you have to win your class, you have to get top four in the overall. So there's only four opportunities for a pro card here this weekend. And again, it's just a little bit more enticing because it's you don't just have to win your class, you have to go in four in the overall. So um yeah, that's really it. So, with other national shows, you usually have to get first in your class or top two in your
Mhm.
class community. So this is the only national show. Well, I wouldn't shouldn't say the only national show that looks like this. Arnold Amateur, I believe, does that as well, and so does the Olympia Amateur
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Offer
uh, yeah, this
with
is
the
a different kind of show, because the men's bodybuilding, they don't win a pro card, that kind of thing. This was always There's just something that's come up through the over the years. This was one of those shows that for bodybuilding, it was a precursor to going to like USA's, or same thing when we're talking about junior nationals and nationals. When you're talking about the junior shows for the men's classes, they didn't win pro cards. So that's still the case here. A good example is like Hunter Labrada won the overall at Junior USA's a few years back, and didn't win his pro card. You know what I mean? So he had to go on and actually win his pro card. This is a way for them to kind of get in front of the judges to get into a bigger show and actually win a card.
yeah.
Um, and this show is one of those ones where you have to be a little strategic about it too, because, like, for example, I did compete in this show one time, and the reason why I never did again is because of my height class. So strategically wise, it's not the best idea for somebody who's tall to do this particular class, to this particular show, because you have to win the top four overall. Back in the day when I did it, it was top three overall. Um, so just by number standpoint, usually the tall girls and the short girls don't win the overalls. It's usually the middle classes that win the overalls. So, you have to use a little bit of strategy when you're going into these shows to know if this is the right show for you or if it's not. So, for some people, they're using this as kind of a show to get them ramped up for the rest of the season too, because they want to do it as a warm up, get in front of the national judges. For a lot of people, being in Podunk, Timbuktu, there is no really good quality judging where they live. So they have to go to national shows in order to get good judges and things like that, and figure out what they have to do in order to get better. So going into a show like this could be very beneficial, to get good feedback, to potentially go to more national shows throughout the year. That's always something to take into consideration. So when you chose to do this show, what was your strategy behind it?
Well, to be fair, I didn't choose to do this show. The year that I turned pro, the theme of the year was we weren't even supposed to be here.
Oh,
So I was about 6 weeks out from my first estimated show of the season, but it was local to me, so I remember reaching out to Jamie, and I kinda looked in shape, and I was like, "Hey, can we do this show this weekend? It's in Orlando, it's only a couple hours from me, you're gonna be there." And she was like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Just keep your expectations realistic," and we
mhm.
went second in the overall, obviously won my class, and then, I went for feedback, and Sandy and Becky were like, "You should be at Junior USA's in a couple weeks." I was like, Really? They're like, yeah, you should definitely go. And then so that, you guys know I got COVID from my makeup artist after Girl Power, and then we didn't even know if we were going to make it to Junior USA's. And literally the Thursday before Junior USA's, we got in the car and left when I got a negative COVID test. So, um, yeah, it was just kind of, happened to be by chance, and I look at the photos, looking back now, and I definitely was not the most in shape one up there. I
Mm.
definitely 6 to 8 weeks out. I was talking to Jamie last night. We went out to dinner the other night, and we had a drink or two. And I was like, I still can't believe I got my pro card that day. She was like, out of all my apps, the one that I did not expect to get a pro card that day.
Yeah, yeah.
That goes to show, like, you never know. And
Yep.
my back after that show was you need to come in more conditioned, but you just had such great shape. And that's the thing is, especially at the amateur level, like there's just so much that goes into it, like you were saying, Sean. And last night, all of us as coaches were on the phone with each other because we literally have an amazing athlete for every single class tomorrow. In every single class tomorrow, there will be a Fit Body Fusion girl in there that
Mm.
is coming in hot. And as coaches, that's amazing. But it's, four people are going to be happy tomorrow and the rest are not. And, we have to learn how to, or not learn, we have to, remember that. But we also have to remember this is the very first national show of the year. And in 4 weeks, and there's more opportunities there. And then you never, and all, just kind of starting that national circuit. So, as a coach, when we're bringing our athletes to the show, we're kind of, setting them up with realistic expectations of, how they're looking and, how hard it is to get it at this show. And most of the athletes here this weekend are really level headed. Like they know, it's going to be tough, but they're all really happy and confident in the physique that they're bringing. So there's 4 spots. It'll be so cool if Fit Body got all 4. We'll see.
Yeah. Well,
But
we've got some fit model girls going in too, right?
yeah, yeah, we
Hmm.
have 2 or 3 Fit Model girls that are going in there tomorrow too. And we were talking to Trey this morning, and Fit Model is got some good numbers as we expected. Fit Model is going to
Good.
be I'm happy to see bodies on stage, nationally qualified fit model bodies on stage for studying and whatnot. Bikini numbers are really good. There's nobody in fitness, nobody in women's bodybuilding here. I think they said that there was 3 in women's physique. And then I just have a text out to Trey now because he didn't mention anything about figure. But I would
Mm.
not many in figure it anyway. So probably a good amount in wellness, a decent amount in bikini and fit model.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I'm trying to remember. Gosh, it was years ago that I was there the last time, and even then, there was only like 4 or 5 women's physique. You know what I mean? I don't think there was any female bodybuilding at that point either. We talked about this a little bit too. Female bodybuilding is phasing out. We mentioned this when Fit Model became a thing. Everybody's like, oh, there's another female division. I'm like, you do realize that all these bigger divisions are going to start just kind of dropping off. Um, and a great example of that was New York Pro, because there was only 3 female bodybuilders in the whole pro show. And that's like a big, that for those of you that don't know, when we're talking about prestige of shows, like it's like Olympia, Arnold, New York Pro, so maybe Pittsburgh right on the same line as New York. But the fact is that there's just no girls coming up in those divisions. So we have to look at these smaller divisions, the fit model and bikini and even wellness. That's the future of the sport for the women. It really is.
Yeah, and I mean, I think too, it's, the body that people want to live in 24/7. And I
Mhm.
think culturally, we're shifting. People want to be in those, smaller physiques or, carry less body fat. And, to be quite honest, with the women's bodybuilding, like getting that big is expensive.
Yeah.
It's drugs, it's
Yeah.
um, time to get there,
Yep.
so I'm definitely seeing a shift with that. We've been seeing that over the last couple years. It's for us as coaches, obviously, who coach fit model and bikini the most. It's really cool to see like the new division thriving. This is exactly what it was intended for, to be more interesting, for the women with less muscle, or the women that love the stage presence aspect, the women that just want to try bodybuilding and have not really sure if they want to fully commit. So it's really cool to kind of see that entry level physique or entry level division now like really thrive.
Yeah. Well, the other thing you got to realize too is, like, I've been doing a lot of consults for fit model girls and things like that as well. And the number one thing that I hear is that they still want to live their life and do this. You know what I mean? And it's a lot easier to do that. It's like I had a consult yesterday with a girl who's like, I still want to have more babies, you know? So I don't want to put myself through a prep where I'm gonna compromise that part of myself, you know?
Tot-
So it's a real thing. And I even said this to Jamie yesterday in my check-in. I was like, you know, this is about, and I yesterday when I checked in, I was up a bit in weight because of my period being here and everything like that. And I was like, this is about the upper, I said, this is about the upper end of where I feel comfortable. And I said, it's not even the number on the scale. It's just like the overall look. And I was like, and I understand that I'm bloated right now for my period. So I want to take that into account. I'm just letting you know, this is about as high as I want to go, you know? And I was like, you know, I understand that that's going to drop off and all that kind of stuff. I'm just giving you a measuring stick, you know? I said, and one of the reasons why I said is because then this is more maintainable for me. You know, this is a lifestyle thing for me as well. At the end of the day, I want to feel good in my skin. I want to look good in my skin, and I want to feel good in the gym, and I want to feel good with my food and all of the things, you know, and that's a real thing. This sport can be very, very all consuming, you know, if you're not careful with it. And that's cool if you're trying to go for Miss Olympia, but the majority of us are not. You know, the majority of us are just trying to live our lives healthy and improve upon our physiques and improve upon our package every time we get on stage. And we don't want to sacrifice our entire life for that, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, I was talking to an athlete this morning. I was thinking about when you were talking. We got on a call this morning because genetically she's kind of right in the middle of bikini and wellness. She's a tremendous athlete. She's a mom, master's athlete. So, you know, I got on a call with her this morning was I started taking her on, and she mentioned to me when we started, she was like, you know, I'm coming from a coach that is basically telling me the same thing. Like, you know, we're on the fence. And in the beginning, I was like, yeah, for sure. She's bikini. I just thought that she had a little bit more body fat on her. So we went through a little cutting phase, and I got on a call with her today. And I'm like, what I'm realizing is that that wasn't body fat. You're just dense. You have really, really dense, beautiful legs. And I was like, you know, so I wanted to just double check with you while we're in this point. We can either really push and grow into wellness, or we're going to have to back and kind of mold you in a bikini. But genetically, you're both, you know, genetic structure does not put you in either. We just have to kind of fight vision. And she was like, you know, I just, you know, I don't want to look like wellness. I don't want to carry the body fat off season. I don't really want the massive legs, you know, so I would rather, you know, pull back more and atrophy my muscle to get more ready for bikini, but live in that life or live in that
Mhm.
body. Sometimes that choice at the end of the day, not making the choice of stage, but making the choice of what you're going to live in 364 days of the year. How do you want
Yeah.
to train? I would present that to, would be like, well, I love to train. So I don't really just want to go into the gym 3 days a week and be doing a bunch of hit work. Like I would rather train and build muscle and, you know, be able to not have a leash on myself. But that's where you
Mhm.
have to connect with the athlete. And I think sometimes too that decision can change. You know,
Yes.
they think they want to pull back on training. They think that it's going to be fun not be able to go into the gym, you know, so much. And then they're there and they're like, wow, I'm bored. Like
Yeah.
maybe I vision. So, you know, as I've really learned that over the past year, really is like continuously checking in with that athlete that's really working hard to kind of mold themselves or their physique into a certain criteria and making sure that they're still enjoying the process. I think a lot of the times when people get turned away from the sport is because a coach forces things on people, like forces a certain training, you know, type without, you know, feedback or, you know,
Mhm.
implementation, then it gets them so burnt out that they just hate training, hate the
Yeah.
sport. For any person, that's not good. You know, whether you're bodybuilding or not, you know, general health and taking care of yourself is really important. So if you turn some from that, what are the consequences for that person that person or the athlete going to be long term, you know? And we always say that on Fit Body Fusion, like our job is to, you know, get the athlete to where they want to be goal wise, to meet them where they're at, but also keep them safe, healthy,
Yeah.
and make sure life and healthy life after the sport of bodybuilding.
Absolutely. People ask me what my favorite protein powder is all the time, and this is it right here, the Clearway Isolate from Prozis. It is the easiest, most digestible protein powder I've ever had. I mix it in with my Greek yogurt, and it's really fresh and refreshing. You could even freeze it and create like little yogurt pops if you wanted to, but it mixes really, really easy. And you can see here with every serving, it's 24 grams of protein, no sugar, no fat, and 110 calories. They've got several different flavors that are great for summertime. So I really suggest you go give that a try and let me know what you think. We're having all sorts of technical difficulties today. Gotta love it. But anyway, um, but yeah, going back to, it's like we have to try to meet the client where they are as well. Just in general, I've been having that issue with one of my clients just recently, and I just talked about this in the coaches chat yesterday. And it's hard once you get into this understanding, once you start to understand what this actually is as far as the sport is concerned, right? So the issue that we're having is this client of mine is doing a phenomenal job. Like, she's executing everything correctly, like to a T, right? But she has a hard time with leaning out, meaning she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to bring the body fat down. She wants to be able to compete at the look that she has right now. And I've been very honest with her and said, listen, you're just not going to be competitive at this size. And she understands she's not going to be competitive at that size, but she still doesn't want to drop the weight. So it's like, what do we do? You know what I mean? Where do we go from here? Because she's not happy getting leaner, but she has to get leaner in order to be competitive, and she wants to be competitive. So it's like, okay, so what do we do? So we're going to have that sit down and conversation and just kind of figure out what direction we want to go. And the thing that I try to um I guess impart upon my clients is realize that if you're doing this as like a bucket list item or a goal or something like that, that's not going to be your body that you live in 24/7. That's going to be your body that you get to stage with, and then you can go back to normal, and whatever your normal is, whatever you want that normal to be. There's this concept of, we've talked about this before, that fear of success versus fear of failure. You know what I mean? And what I think happens sometimes is people become successful doing this, and then they have to keep it up, and it's hard. It's hard to keep it up at that point, right? So it's like, what do you do? Then people start asking questions too, and they're like, okay, so why did you do that? Now you're not doing it anymore, and all those kinds of things. It's like, well, sometimes you just want to reach a goal. If you reach that goal, that's fantastic, and then you can go back to whatever your normal is. But that's hard once you've been in this sport for a little while too. It's like, okay, well, what is normal now? Normal doesn't exist anymore. Normal is new. This is the new normal. We talked about that with over the last few years with just our COVID situation, all that kind of stuff. This is our new normal. So, um, like you said, it's managing expectations, but it's managing outcomes too. And it's like, okay, so we've talked about this before too. This weekend, Junior USA is going to have girls that go pro. Some of them are going to be competitive on the pro stage, some of them are not. So how do you manage those expectations of the outcomes too? For some girls, this will be the best day of their life and they'll never place ever again. Myself included on situations like that. Like, it just is what it is. And you have to understand that you're doing this for a different reason, whatever that reason may be, whether it's just because you love the sport, or you just want to see yourself improve along the way, or whatever, because you have to have other whys in order to continue with it, or otherwise you're just not. And there's nothing wrong with not continuing if you hit that goal. If you're done and you're like, I'm happy, that's cool. That's fine. Maybe that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Maybe you just need to hit that goal at one time and now you can move on to something else. There's nothing wrong with that either. I try to say that too. Like, people are so stuck on, I see it a lot. They get really consumed in this sport, and it's like, I have to do this next. I have to do that next. I have to there's no have to's. If you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to put the size on anymore. I don't want to have the wellness legs anymore. You don't have to. You can just live your life like a normal person. There's nothing saying that you have to be committed to this sport for the rest of your life. It could just be a simple season of your life. You know what I mean? And that's okay too. Like I said, there's ways. The most successful people in our sport right now are not competitors. They're coaches and promoters and things like that. You know what I mean? Those are the people that are making the money in the sport. It's not the competitors.
No,
So it's
not the
like,
competitor at all.
it's like,
Yeah, and I think
like,
too that like the more you go through the ebbs and flows of your journey in bodybuilding, the goals change, right? Like,
mhm,
for myself, like when I started bodybuilding, I had no idea what the Olympia was. I had no
right.
idea what turning pro meant, but as I just started to believe in myself and see the changes within me and understand the new goals and how this could progress, then my goals changed. It went from,
Yep.
I just want to step on stage in a sparkly bikini and this is so cool, to, oh, I want to pursue a pro card. And then I, would pursue the pro card. And then it's like, all right, you're kind of back at the bottom now. Let's see how well we can do. And then I was doing well in pro shows. And then I won a pro show. And then, oh my God, now we're going to the Olympia. Now I want to be an Olympian. And, now we're in this point of how far can we go in the Olympia? And now I'm in this place of like, okay, I think I'm going to tap out at the highest point of the Olympia. So I think
Right.
it's almost time for retirement, right? So it's like you change as you go.
Yep.
And it's okay. Like it's okay for your goals to change. I think it's really important in any human, but especially in this sport. I encourage my athletes all the time, when they start kind of losing sight of what they're doing and their why, revisit that. We talk
Yeah.
about like the New Year's resolutions all the time. I think that's something you should be doing with yourself every 30 to 90 days, is checking back in with yourself and saying, what is my goal? What am I working towards? Are my behaviors reflecting that? Have things shifted? Had things changed? And it's okay, especially
Yep.
if you're in a big transitioning phase of life. Your goals are probably going to change quite a bit based on what you're doing in your life. We have athletes that are, single when we, start taking them on, and they're all in and they wanted, and then they meet someone and they're dating and now they want to pull back a little bit from the gym. They want to go on date nights and things like that. That's a life change. So now the goal
Mhm.
shifts. There's things like that that happen all the time. But if you're somebody that's struggling with that, I would definitely say, like, sit down, write down what you think your goals are right now. What's your why? Why do you do this? And then the behavior should match that,
Mhm.
and put it on your notes tab. Stick with it when you're having those moments that we all do, where we wake up and we're like, man, why are we doing this cardio right now? Why am I going to go train like this right now? Open up that notes tab on your phone and remember your why. But then if
Yep.
you're reading that why and you're like, not really identifying that right now, you're going through a shift, you're going through a
Yep.
change. So you need to spend some time on that and journal on that and try to figure out what that is. Is it changing? Is it momentary? Is there something happening right now that maybe is making you a little bit emotional? For women, that's our periods a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You can kind of really think about those things. But that's how, these women that are on this national stage tomorrow from our team, I know quite a bit of them. A lot of them have poured their heart and soul into this because their goal is to get a pro card this year. They have done, I know I could speak on Nikki and Kelly, my two that are going on stage tomorrow. They have done everything that I have asked them to do over the last year for this day right here. This is the one that we've talked about. So, you know, that type of athlete that's willing to go to dark places and do as much amount of cardio as needed. And, both athletes, when they're checking in all week, is like, whatever you want to do, coach, I'm good with. You want to drop food? Cool. You want to, increase cardio? Cool. Whatever you need from me, just make sure that I'm at my best come Friday.
Mhm.
That's that athlete mentality that it's going to take to get to that national level. But for some others where it's just, I want to have fun and want to do this, then it's not as serious. But we
Yeah.
should know that as your coach and how we can help you and support you.
Right. And I also think that going all in sometimes can be scary because then, like you said, like you burn the boats at the shore and all that kind of stuff, and you go all in. Well, what if it doesn't work out and you don't get that pro card?
Yes.
There's a lot of girls that don't get pro cards ever. When they go all in, it's a thing. It's like it's a hard reality. But I also think as long as you did everything you could possibly do, you should be happy with that. And I
Yeah.
think that way. I think that way myself personally on the pro stage. So I'm like, as long as I do everything I possibly can, I'm going to be happy with my physique no matter what my placing is. That's something you really, really have to focus on because it's hard. Losing sucks. It's never fun to lose. It's never a fun thing to lose. People can say all they want. I'm just going for the experience. I just want to do it. No, no, you want to fucking win. Everybody wants to fucking win. It is what it is. Like, it's okay to want that. It's okay to be upset when that doesn't happen, because you do pour your heart and soul into this. It's an everyday thing. It's how you eat, it's how you sleep, it's how you walk around during the day. It's everything. You know what I mean? So it is okay to be upset if things don't go your way that day. And then on the other side of that too, for a lot of the girls tomorrow, it is gonna, well, not a lot, but several of the girls tomorrow it is gonna go their way. And you got to remember to embrace that and enjoy that too, because this is something I talk about a lot. Tomorrow for some of these girls could be their last time ever competing in the NPC ever, and things completely change when you're out of the NPC. So enjoy it while you're there. For a lot of people, they've said this, like if they skyrocket to the pro league really quickly, they say, listen, I wish I had more time, like actually battling on the NPC stage. It's a real thing. And so enjoy it. Remember what you've worked for, right? You've worked months and years for this particular moment. Remember what you're doing, remember it, and really cherish it and take in every single moment. Like, I can still smell what it smelled like backstage when I won my pro card. I can still feel that feeling when I walked off the stage. I can still feel that feeling what it felt like when the lights hit me when they announced my name as winning my pro card. I can feel all of that, and here we are 15 years later. right? So, well, not 15, but close enough. Pretty close, pretty close. But, you know, that's the thing that I really really encourage people, especially when they're going into a national show, because it could be the last one they ever do in a good way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking about that with Nikki sometime last week. It was like, when I was going into junior USA's that year that I got it, after doing a lot of national shows, especially in 2020, I was just so at peace. Like I just knew in my heart I had done everything I needed to do. There was no stone that I could have turned more.
Yeah,
And that goes back to what you're saying, like literally just making sure you do everything possible. And if you know you did everything you could, no matter what the placing is, it's just the placing at the end of the day. It's not your day.
that's right.
For me, I was heartbroken in 2020 when I did not get the pro card. And I was going to national show and just getting worse and worse and worse. And then when it did happen, I was so glad it happened the way that it did. I was so glad I didn't get the pro card in 2020. And it's so hard when you're in that emotional, state of mind of thinking like, man, I thought I earned it but try to kind of take a step back and just tell yourself like it just is not my time. And when it
Right.
is my time, it will be. And the pros that I do talk to, it's like we all felt the same on the day we turned pro. It was just this overwhelming sense of peace knowing that we gave it our all,
Hmm.
not, in the room 3 nights before trying to throw Hail Marys with our coaches and are your tie-ins there? Are they not? Do we need it? Like it was just this is it.
Yeah.
You look great. Like, let's go, and there's a different aura about it. And you really want to earn it that way too. Like the weekend should be fun. You should feel confident. You should, it's just a different aura about it. So
Yep.
if it doesn't happen for you this weekend, just know that that's okay. And when it does happen, you're going to be so glad the way that it does because it's your day that day and
Yep.
the aura around it's going to be beautiful. Um, yeah, it's just it's so difficult to think about. Drew and I keep talking about that, like, oh, Friday night's gonna be so fun, celebrating the ones that get it, but we always worry about the ones that don't because we want to
Yeah.
make sure that they know that like they're still just as good. It's just today is not the day.
Yeah. I can still remember my coach wasn't even there when I won my pro card. That was back when Universe was a 2-day show. So I got I got off stage after prejudging and I called him. I was like, I was split center. He was like, what? I was like, and there's no live feeds or anything like that. I was like, yeah, I was split center. And they never moved. He goes, and there's 2 pro cards that they give out every class. I go, yeah. I was like, I was like, oh shit. He's like, okay, I need pictures right now. I was like,
Yeah, it's funny. And then for me, like it was in my open, it was a class of 7.
yeah,
So by luck, I was dead center. So, I was like, okay, either we know or I'm going to be very surprised at
right,
finals,
right, right, right.
right? But it's then that pressure comes on because it's like, okay, we're here, we're getting ready for the overall, like cool, won my class, but honestly, like check next, right? Like
Yes.
especially at this show, like you have to focus on the overall. So like with my 2 girls right now, I'm checking them in right now after every single meal. They're coming into my room, checking in with me. Both of them are pumping right now, and I'm just keeping a super, super strict eye on them. But something I'm drilling in them today, both of them, is their posing. Like
Yeah.
that is going to be the make or break in that overall. The walk, the presentation, like you're giving away 4 pro cards tomorrow. We need to look professional.
100%. 100%. It makes such a huge difference. I know some of you guys listening to this have been to shows, some of you have not. But when you go to a show, you can just tell when the girl's on with her presentation and you can tell when she's not. I mean, it's a big, big difference. And when you're at these national level shows, it is a big, big difference. The minute they walk out on stage, I mean, you can see it. This like the bodies are too good. The bodies are too good. You cannot leave that part to chance at all.
Yeah, control the controllables, right? Like at the nationals, especially, like, you know, most women look good. Most women like that top 8, it could be splitting hairs at that point, So that's where you really have to show up. Like this is not the show to skip out on makeup and
Right.
hair. Like this is not the show where you skip out on, the tan and not really keeping a close eye on it. Like all of those details matter, especially if it's splitting hairs between first and second, So I know I used to be like that. It's like, just rushing and, kind of check boxing everything. And it's those little details at the end of the day that can really add up. So if you're going to the nationals, like save your money, like you worked really hard for this moment. Like nationals is not the time to nickel and dime. the little things. Those the times make
Yep.
sure that those things are amplified and perfect because you
Yep.
want to make sure that you also feel most confident. And I always tell my girls too, like the hard work is done. You just spent, 20 plus weeks prepping. Like go enjoy a little bit. Let someone pamper
Fun.
you at 3 o'clock in the morning. You shouldn't have to do that yourself.
That's right. Absolutely. And and going back to like what is your stressors and what is your stress relief when we're talking about shows
True.
too, like actually I had my makeup done for me when I won my pro card. That was the only time I've ever had my makeup done. And I just did it because I was like, I just want to relax. I did my own hair because people always suck at my hair. So I did my own hair. But um that was the one show where I was like, no, I'm gonna pay for my makeup to get done. And I was like, well, damn, okay. And it literally, like you said, it was just like that peace. Like the whole weekend was just peace because I was like, everything is just taken care of. I don't have to worry about I literally worried about nothing. I just sat around and like just absorbed. I'm also that person that when things get really chaotic around me, I center into myself, you know? Um, I remember that show. We had four girls in our hotel room. 'Cause we were splitting a hotel room. There was four of us in a room, so there's like two of us in each bed, and it was just
Chaos.
chaos. It was just fucking chaos, and I was just like, I'm just gonna chill over here and do my hair, and I'm gonna go do my makeup, and I'm gonna go get my tan done. I'm just like, I'm just gonna chill. I'm just gonna chill, and that's what it was. It was like it was that like you said, overwhelming sense of just peace. I'm just here. Like and again, I had no expectations going into that show. There was nothing that I was like, I'm gonna win. I didn't think I was gonna win my pro card. You know what I mean? So, but I pretty much knew after prejudging that's what was happening. So, and everything just stayed like this the whole weekend. The whole weekend through, I was like, oh, okay. And it's almost like one of those things where if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like
Totally.
you can't force it to happen. So it's gonna
I
happen when
think
it's supposed
any
to.
athlete, like no matter how good you look coming into the nationals with, an overall, multiple overalls, no overalls, whatever the case is, like you got to keep yourself realistic
Right.
because even if you're showing up your best that day, we talk about this all the time at bikini. Number one, we don't know who's showing up next to you. Number two, we don't know what the judges are going to want that
Right.
day. You know what I mean? And um I do think that we have an advantage on Fit Body Fusion when we have 20 athletes that we're bringing so that we can kind of,
Control the look.
what conditioning are you bringing? What can, you know what I mean? Like, so as all the
Mhm.
coaches of the open bikini right now, we're all kind of talking with each other, like, what amount of conditioning are we bringing in fullness? That way we could kind of curb the look a little bit, right?
Yep.
So all of our girls look pretty standard to each other, which is nice. Nobody's too hard, nobody's too soft. Everybody's just kind of like riding that middle line together. But those are the things that you can't control at the end of the day, which sucks. But I
Hmm.
mean, that's the thing at this national level. Everybody looks good. We talk about this all the time. Everybody works hard. This is the reason why they don't look at our stats on how much back squat we do and things like that. Like everybody works hard to be here. So it's tough. It's a tough season. Everybody is prepping. Everybody is lean. Everybody is extremely emotional. Everybody wants what they want, whatever that goal is. And, not everybody is going to get what they want. There can only be, a few winners at the end of the day. So I think it's important, no matter how the show goes, whether it goes your way or not, stay humble, stay
Hmm.
focused on whatever that goal is, and, take that feedback and, allow yourself to feel any emotion that you're feeling and then tomorrow morning when you wake up, reset and say, all right, next, what are we
Yep.
doing? What's the next goal? Right. So it's so early in the season. There's so much opportunity for pro cards this season, still. So, don't get down on yourself if it doesn't happen to you, this weekend or junior knots in 4 weeks. Like we still have plenty more time.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's interesting about this show is Tyler's judging it too, right?
He is. He is
Which he
judging it, which he has not been
typically
here in
doesn't.
many years. Yeah.
Yeah, it typically doesn't, and that's because of Fit Model, I believe,
Correct.
but because we got to set a standard. So
Correct.
I really think coming out of this weekend, we're gonna have a better, more clear picture.
Yep.
Hopefully, like he's been doing the breakdowns and stuff for the pro shows. I'm hoping he does one for this show as well. I haven't seen
That'd
him
be
do one for
great.
the national show, but it would be nice if he did one for the show and kind of gave a clear outline of why the girls won for particular looks in Fit Model.
Yeah. If I
Because
talk
that
to him,
would
I'll
be really
give him that
helpful.
feedback because I think that would be
Yeah.
helpful. Even if it was just for a fit model,
That's right.
which is the reason why
Even if
he's
it's
here.
just for fit model, correct?
Mhm.
Because we need to set a standard, like as much as Pittsburgh was the first pro qualifier here in the States, it was still a natural pro qualifier. So it's not exactly the same as what we're going to see this weekend. I am very curious to see how they reward specifically in conditioning. That's what I'm looking for. I think we all kind of understand the shape, I believe. You know, the conditioning part is the part that I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what gets rewarded and what gets docked. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that the biggest, I've said this before 1,000 times when it comes to female divisions. I have no problem with lots of muscle. Where I have issues when the conditioning gets too much. It's not healthy for women to be like that. You know what I mean? And that's where, for all of these divisions, that's where they get bumped up and bumped up and bumped up and bumped up. It's the conditioning levels. So I'm hoping that we see a really good mix of some nice, full, round, dense muscle and not too conditioned. I'm hoping that's what gets rewarded. You know what I mean? So
I think
we'll
that's
see.
what we'll see. I think that's what we'll see. I mean, when we're cross-checking with, higher level judges right now, that's what
Mhm.
they're
Yeah.
telling us that they want.
Yep.
But again, we're not going to know till
Yeah.
it gets picked, right? So I
Yep.
can tell you that the fit models that we are bringing this weekend, that's what we're doing. We want to see lines in the back pose, but we don't want to see anything too crazy. We don't want to see washed out abs. We just want to see a nice, tight midsection, and we're hammering them on posing and
Yeah.
presentation.
The posing is so big for fit model, you guys. If you're planning on competing in this division, start posing now. That front pose is the hardest pose for women in this federation, period. Hands down, the hardest pose. Your body doesn't want to look like that, doesn't want to twist like that, doesn't want to tilt like that. It just doesn't want to do it. Naturally, when you tilt your pelvis back, your lower abs want to pooch out. That's just our bodies and how they're built. So to be able to hit that pose and hit it well and hold it is not easy. It's not easy. So don't think you can just get up there and stand there. You're not gonna be able to.
No, no, it is. It's a very difficult pose. I was posing one of my athletes this morning, and it's just a lot of cranking. It's a lot of
Yes.
cranking, a lot of connectivity. We ended up finding a pose this morning that actually felt a little bit more comfortable for her.
Mm.
But it's a very unnatural pose, and it does not look good on everybody. So it's really about finding like the shape and the foot position and the tilt and everything that looks good on you and your
Yes.
physique and your development.
Yes.
But it's difficult. Yeah, it's definitely something that I think with fit model it needs to be even more of a prevalence than bikini,
100%.
because the model-esque part of the grading and the criteria.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. I sent you and Drew the screenshots yesterday because I was going back and forth with Jamie and my check-in, because on my back pose, I'm pulling my shoulders in a bit because I'm too wide up top. So I was like, do you like this better or do you like what I was doing before? And she's like, actually, I think you could pull your shoulders down a little bit more. And then I was looking at my front pose, and she's like, and you can bring your shoulders in on your front pose too. You're really broad across the top. And I basically collapsed my back, right? And I was like, well, I am. And I went back and I looked at my pictures from when I was out in Arizona, and I was like, I swear to God, I am posing smaller than what I was in Arizona, but my body has grown so much in the last 2 months. I was like, holy shit, where the fuck did this come from? So it's like, that for me was really exciting to see. To be honest with you, I've never seen my body like grow like it has been over the last couple of months, and a lot of that has to do with like just my training changing. You know what I mean? But I was just like, that's something that we have to look at too, because what I was doing just 2 months ago does not fit my physique anymore for this division, right? I look too big, and I'm like, it's not a bad problem to have. I'm not complaining. Jamie actually said, I sent you the screenshot. She said in my check-in, she's like, you may have to go back to bikini. I was like, yeah, no, but thanks. I
No,
appreciate the
please.
compliment though. I know. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate where you're coming from with this, and I appreciate the compliment, but no, we're good. So,
Well, it goes
but
back to
my,
what I said this morning. You're comfortable with pulling back on training versus saying,
yes,
"Oh, I love this training now. Maybe I will go back to bikini and just
right,
continue to grow." Like, no,
right,
you love this division. You want to stay in the box of this division, meaning
right,
you're willing to pull back on your training if you have to. Some athletes wouldn't be, but again, like
right.
your goals have adjusted more than anybody here right now. I mean, you you went from figure to bikini
I
to
know, right?
that, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just about adjusting based on where you're at in life and how you want to it's definitely something that I feel like as athletes they don't they don't like acknowledge that enough, and they feel like,
Mhm.
oh well, it has to be bikini because that's what everybody expects me to be in, or that's what I started in, and then they're not really enjoying the process, and they're not really putting 110% into that process to even like the self-sabotage part of it, versus if they just moved divisions and found a body and a training style that they loved, their approach would be happier, they would
Yeah.
love it more. And
Yes.
it's tough, that mental battle, because at the end of the day, like as a coach, like I can't make that decision for you. I can't I can tell you what I think genetically and structurally the best division is for you. But if you're not bought in on that look, or that's not the way that you want to get there, then at the end of the day, we're both going to be spinning our
That's
wheels,
right.
so that's where you really have to make that decision for yourself. And it's a personal one. It's not one that anybody else can make for you.
Yeah, and also on the that same topic, I think sometimes you just have to commit to something and do it and figure out if you even like it first. And then at that point, then you can make all these adjustments, right? You know what I mean? Like I know for myself, I don't want to go back to bikini because I know my body type and I know what that would involve for me to be able to be successful in that particular division. But that's because I've done it before. You know what I mean? And then I understand where I am. Like if I had just said, "Well, I think I want to do bikini. I've never actually done it before." That's completely different. You know what I mean? Give yourself the opportunity to either be successful or unsuccessful at something. Just actually do it, and then adjust. Then say, "Okay, now I know I like this, or now I know I don't like this. Now we can make those changes and things like that going forward."
I'm
Because a
learning as
lot
a
of times,
coach that self-sabotage is such a thing. Like, that is,
huge,
like, the number one. It's like,
huge.
the plan is fine. The plan is perfect, but, like, as
Yes,
athletes, we just get so stuck in our head and we believe that narrative, and then we just sabotage ourselves. We pull back on
yes,
our training. We start overeating a little bit here and there. We have a binge, or, we just stop doing everything we need to do all together. And then as a coach, we're like, wait, what happened? Why are we doing that?
right.
It's like, well, I just told myself that I wasn't competitive enough, or, I told myself
Yeah,
it was never going to happen. It's like, well,
yep,
that is going to happen with this, sort of effort. And I think
yep,
that's what you're saying, Sean, is like, it's just whatever that goal is, just like go in 110%. Like,
100%.
this is why coaches have coaches. I reached a client reached out to me, not a personal client of mine. I did an assessment with her back in November, told her that she needed to build muscle. She reached out to me when I was on the plane the other day, and she's like, I've been prepping myself for 8 weeks. I'm not dropping any weight. I didn't realize that, like, coaches need coaches. Like, I thought this would be easier. And I was like, no, like, I give you a lot of credit, because it would be harder for me to coach myself.
Yes,
We just don't see ourselves the same way. But self-sabotage is like the number one real thing. And I think that's where you really got to lean into your coach and the people around you to say, like, is what I'm thinking, seeing, feeling real, or is it
hmm
not? And
hmm
I need you to know this is how I'm feeling, so you can help, support me and tell me what I need to continue to hype me up and make sure that I don't sabotage my own progress going into the
yeah,
show, goal, whatever.
yeah. And I never really realized this because my mentality, I think you're probably the same way. I mean, my mentality has always been once I commit to something, I'm in 100%. Like I don't give up. It's going to happen one way or another. I'm going to get to the finish line. And that for 99% of the people out there is not the case. And I don't know if I just didn't realize that until I really started coaching people and I started realizing just how much people actually give up on themselves, because that's just never, for me, that's just never been an option, right? There's that concept of, it was like the Vikings. The Vikings, whenever they would go to try to conquer a new land or whatever, they would burn the boats at the shore. That gave them no option to retreat. So either they conquered where they went or they died. There's no in between. And that's always kind of been my mentality with everything that I do. It's either I make it work or I'm done. There's just no in between. There's so many people that don't go into things like that. And I don't know. I just never, I don't know. That's just never been my thing. And I guess, like I said, like you said, the self-sabotage thing, it's surprising to me how many of my clients do that to themselves, right? There's so many of them that just actually, I've got a handful that just execute. Just boom, 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 boom. They do everything. The rest of them all self-sabotage. Like they're making progress. They're starting to see results. And then they go fuck it up. And I'm like, you were doing so well. Why did you do that?
I
Like,
think it's normal. And I
why?
think too, like, peak to peak, it's different too. Like, you either go like robot mode,
Yeah.
numb,
Yeah.
like no emotion, just I don't know how I look, I don't care how I look, I'm just following
Yeah.
the plan. Or there's, with most women, we're emotional beings, like, and there's a lot that's changing. That's why Sean and I coined it the 5 week freak out. Like, 5 weeks out from stage, there's
Yes.
so much that's changing at that point. Food is low, cardio is high, sex hormones are plummeting. There's so many internal changes that are going on. Your body's changing constantly. You don't know which way is up. You're getting flat. You're getting depleted. You look worse than you did 3 weeks ago. And you're like, wait, I'm leaner. The scale is down, but why do I look worse? And then that's where that mental starts coming in, where some
Yeah.
athletes just are able to go, oh shit, I look worse today, but this is what my coach told me to do, so I'm just going to continue. You know what I mean? So it's just like the emotion behind it. And listen, this all means something to us. We all put so much time and attention into this, and at the bottom line, the end of the day is like we are participating in a sport where we're asking people to judge our physique, which can be extremely challenging emotionally. You know, especially in check-ins
100%.
with your coach. I know that this is something I'm struggling with right now. I'm very black and white. I say it like it is. I set realistic expectations for my athletes, and sometimes they like that, and sometimes they're like, I wish I wouldn't didn't need to know that. I'm like, okay, you know, I understand that now, but it's, you know, I try to set that realistic expectation with them of how they're looking and, you know, what to expect.
Yep.
That way there's no disappointment, you know, but finding that fine line and knowing that athlete to know how to help them and encourage them. You know, at the end of the day, we
Mhm.
all look great. Everybody looks fantastic in this
Right.
sport. Everybody. We're
Right.
all lean, we're all in shape, we all look great. It's not to take away from how you look, but if we're talking about a competitive sport with a goal, my job is to tell you where we're lacking or how we're looking into getting there so that we know where we need to improve and to set the expectation of what we think is going to happen. That way there's no disappointment. You know,
Yes.
this weekend, I can't guarantee that any of my girls get a pro card. Do I think that both of them are coming their absolute best and they both look like pros? Yes. But the bottom
Mhm.
line is both of them are probably not getting a pro card tomorrow. We
Right.
would be lucky to get one. Right.
Right.
So it's like setting that expectation with them. I just had a conversation with one of them this morning. She was like, I know, I understand. I'm good. I'm in a good headspace. But it's because I've given her that. I
Mhm.
gave her that conversation. I haven't overhyped her up. I've told her how great she looks. She knows this is her absolute best, but she also knows how hard it's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And she's okay with that because she knows she did everything that she could to get here tomorrow.
Right. And it also goes back to if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right? You're giving all the possible solutions and problems. You're giving them everything, right? It's hard initially, I think, as a competitor to be able to separate that and look at it objectively versus emotionally, right? But once you get into this a little bit, you realize that this is an objective look at a subjective sport. And there's only so much that you can control. Like you said, you just there's just a lot of things you can't control, right? You can't control if you get your period freaking the week of the show or something like that. You just got to manage it. But because you've set expectations and because maybe you've managed your period in the past, you know strategies now like you can help to try to fix that, right? It's the same thing with everything. That's why when okay, if you spike up in weight, okay, let's look at maybe you had more sodium yesterday or whatever it might be. If that's the case, then we know how to manage that, right? So it's not an attack on you. It's more like, okay, what did we do that made this go wrong? So that we can fix that in the future. It's always about being able to fix it later on. Taking diligent notes, all this kind of stuff, giving those critiques, giving those realistic expectations allows you to manage those aspects a whole lot better going into a show. And you just have to take the emotion out of it and realize it's more to, like I said, an objective way of managing a subjective sport.
Love that. Totally. Like I tell my athletes that too. Like when things go wrong, that's okay as long as we're learning from
Yes.
them. You know, some
Yes.
coaches, things go wrong and they're like, all right, we'll just get back on plan the next day. And it's like when things go wrong, I'm like, well, what happened? What was the
Right.
monologue behind that? What did
Right.
you do? How late was that meal? Do you know what the approximate sodium? That way, oh, that amount of sodium load we know is too high. Let's make a note of that. Um, it's yeah, it's not always about shaming, it's about trying to understand more
Yeah.
so we don't repeat it.
Yeah, because a lot of things
um,
too is like you don't even realize this problem. We've talked about this before. Like when I used to do my sodium going into a show, I would take my salt shaker, go free, free. That's what I did.
Same.
And Jamie's like, no, you have to measure your sodium. I was like,
Correct.
but I am. I'm doing two shakes. She's like, that's not the same. I was like, oh, I didn't even know I was doing it wrong, but we figured it out so we could fix it, and then we were able to manage it a whole lot better after that.
This is actually part of my content education that Nikki and I are creating this month is how to track sodium because a lot of people don't understand that. You know, they
Yeah.
just like, oh, well, I'm keeping an eye on it, or I don't add sodium when I'm cooking. I just add it later. And it's like, no, there's a precise way to do it. And it really does change the look if we need it to. That's what I
That's
say to
right.
my athletes. The goal is to not have to manipulate water and sodium. But if we have to because of a cycle or travel day went completely wrong and you look like a water buffalo and you're not dropping water, well, then I can manipulate those variables and I know exactly what they are to be able to do that. Now, if I wasn't tracking those variables and we're running into the same issue, I don't even know where to begin on
Right.
pulling back, right? It's just
Right.
going to kind of be throwing something at the wall and hoping that it sticks, which all of you know I hate. I'm People
Right.
like to have everything very concrete, but that's the reason why. It's not because there's an issue. It's because if there is an issue that comes up, we have all of the controllables already done. So we know where we can pull from or what we need to do to get you to the look that we want.
That's right. And again, goes just back to just knowing what your stimuluses are. You know, like again, going back to this week, my face started breaking out. I was like, that's weird. And then I look at my cycle tracker. I was like, oh, it's because my cycle's coming. You know, like I get it.
We're all cycling at the same time.
We're not even in the same room, and we're syncing up.
Dare and I haven't bled in years, but we're synced for our go
Oh my god,
cycles.
that's
And we
so
only
funny.
know because Nikki's the actual one that
That's
bleeds.
actually having a cycle.
Yes, but we're all feeling it. It's so
That's so
funny.
funny.
It's so funny.
The whole Fit Body Fusion crew, we're all in the same cycle. So just stay away from
Yes,
all of the women in Fit Body Fusion for a week every month.
seriously.
That's too funny.
That's funny. It's hilarious. So
But
yes, you're cycling for sure.
yes, yes. So I was like, so again, and going back to it, it sucks. I was like, I checked in yesterday, and that was my first full day of my period, right? And I was like, fuck. I was like, I wanted to have a really solid check in, and I'm like, I know my weight's up. You know, my weight was up 2 pounds. Guess what? I'm back down 2 pounds today, but my check in was yesterday. I was like, son of a bitch. You know what I mean? So, but it's like understanding those things, understanding that your body is doing what it's doing because, and actually it's a healthy thing. You know what I mean? It's a good thing that that's happening. It's a good thing I put those couple pounds on. That's normal. That's part of your body being healthy, all of those kinds of things. But again, it's just being able to manage it and understand how you can fix things when things go wrong. This is all part of it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's an exciting time of year, getting ready for all the national circuits. Like I know as a coach, like this is where I thrive. Like, this
Yeah.
is what tests me. This is where I learn the most. It's fun to manipulate things, like having the girls come in every meal. I'm just manipulating everything like meal and meal right now, getting them nice and full. It's fun. It's challenging. I think everybody can tell on my face. I'm extremely exhausted. I have not slept.
Yeah.
But this is what we do. Like this is as coaches, like what we thrive in, and getting our athletes to this point, which is their goal, and what we work for all year. So I'm really, really excited for tomorrow, really excited for junior nat, just getting all the season started. I'm really, really
What do you
happy.
know what the order is tomorrow as far as
I
the
do.
classes?
So this is actually fresh from Trey 5 minutes ago.
Oh,
So no
perfect.
women's bodybuilding. That was
Right.
supposed to be number one. 5 in women's physique,
Okay.
15 in figure. This is the order too, by the way. 25 to 30 wellness athletes, 60 to 66 bikini athletes, and then 35 to 40 fit model. So fit model
Okay.
at this time is going on last.
Okay. Okay. So
35 to 40 fit model at the first national show of the
oh, it's
year.
good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's funny because like you just said 15 figure athletes, and that's how many people like there's 18 in my class, my class alone when I went pro.
Yeah.
And that's 15 total in the whole show. Isn't
And
that
usually
crazy?
at the later national shows of the year, especially bikini, years ago, we've talked about this. It used to be like 40 in each
Yeah.
open class,
Yeah.
so numbers are still down, but honestly, for the first national show of the year, this is pretty good. I think this is an improvement from last year from Junior USA's. I'll have to talk to Trey, but I think this is, especially with fit model for sure,
Right.
but this is a lot more.
Yeah. And then again, it goes back to strategy. I mean, the hard part about this particular show is the number of pro cards given out. That's why people don't do it, and that's why when you look at the men's side of it, you'll be lucky if you have a men's open bodybuilder. I mean, at the end of the day, it's expensive and it's a lot on your body to peak for a show when you can't have
For
the
what?
opportunity to win a pro card.
Yeah, and it would be interesting if people. I think it was announced that Tyler is going to be here, if that changes things for some of the guys, like just trying to get in front
Yeah.
of Tyler, before. But again, like when you're at this level, it's a game of chess,
Right.
who you show up, who you're showing up in front of, what shows, how many shows you're going to do, because the bottom line is, as an amateur, you're definitely not as dense. So you have
Yes.
to be very careful with how much you run yourself into the ground and how
Right.
much tissue you're sacrificing, especially if you're a
That's right.
natural athlete. If you don't have
Mhm.
PEDs in to try to help not sacrifice as much tissue, you got to be very, very strategic, in the beginning. We see athletes that compete all year at the national circuit, and everybody's like, well, I don't understand. Like, they look so good in the beginning of the season. Like, why are they not as bubbly, not as full, etc.? Well, It's because they've been competing a lot. They've been
That's right.
dieted down. They lost muscle. At the end of the day, like, you guys have to realize that, like, when we're trying to lose body fat, we're also losing muscle. So, and the amateurs, like, you guys are not as dense. I mean, I could say I haven't been as dense really until this year. I did the same
Hmm.
thing. I did a lot of shows and we just lose tissue and then have to kind of build it all back up and then hopefully gain some more. So keep that in mind too. When you're picking shows, strategy, be honest with your coach with how you're feeling. If you're doing
Hmm.
show after show, you're feeling super run down, super fatigued, training's not going well, even if you're close, it might just be worth to pull back and go into an improvement season and come out later in the year, or even come out next year fresh with
Right.
improvements, especially if you're that close. What's another 6 months in the off season? Like, to run yourself into the ground and then what? Step on the pro level, not be competitive at all? You're
Yep.
gonna have to go into the improvement season anyway at some point. Wouldn't you
Right.
rather take some time now to grow, come out, get the overall, get a pro card, and then be able to go right into the pro league and have some noise behind you?
Yep.
If it's my athlete and my roster, that's what I can encourage them to do, versus just, well, we're close, let's just keep pushing. Well, we're close,
Yes.
let's just keep pushing. And at the sacrifice of what? With no guarantee you're actually going to get it at that next national show. And that's that hard part. But again, like, be honest with yourself, be honest with your coach with how you're feeling. If you're really feeling that fatigue later on in the season and they want to continue to push, it is worth it for you to speak up and go, I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling it.
Yeah. Well, and I think people really underestimate the amount of what it takes out of your body over time too. I just had this conversation with one of my fit model girls yesterday. She's going to do a show or two in the fall, right? And then she wants to come out again in the spring. And I was like, wait a second. I was like, the goal is to go to national level next year, right? She's like, well, yeah, the goal is always trying to get a pro card. I said, so let's just back this up for a second. I said, if you do the two shows in the fall,
Then where do
going
you go?
right into going right back into another prep for she want to do April. I was like, for April doesn't make any sense. I said, you're not gonna have any time off. You're gonna have maybe a month where you're gonna sit there and you're just gonna kind of recoup a little bit, and then you're right back into prep again. You're gonna make zero improvements. If anything, you're gonna be worse. I was like, and you're gonna come out in April for what reason? There's not a national show, and she's masters. I said, there's not a national show until July for masters. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. So take the time. It'll go by really fucking fast too. So take the time to stay off stage. We'll decide what we're gonna do after you do these couple of shows in the fall, if we're gonna even go for the summer. But there is no sense of coming out back in the spring. None. Zero.
I know, that's so hard, and I understand that, athlete, because, like,
Yeah.
I love the show Tahoe Pro.
Yeah.
I love the show Tahoe Pro, but for me right now, where I'm at in my career, like, stepping on stage in the middle of August when the Olympia is not till October, it doesn't make sense for me. It doesn't
Right.
make sense for me to get lean, to be that lean until October. It just doesn't make sense at this point. So at this point in my career, I can't do it, because of the timeline. But that's the thing, like, I have to make that choice. Like, am I just going to step on stage because I love that show, I love the photo shoot, I love being in Lake Tahoe, to sacrifice my body, or am I trying
Right.
to improve at the Olympic? You know what I mean? And that's where
Right.
that, what's the
What's your
goal, what are
goal?
you gonna do to get there, right? So it's just
Yes.
where you have to make those tough decisions, and especially for your health as well, and your
Yeah.
mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people don't realize that I think what happens too is a lot of times I think girls are afraid of the off season. They're just
They
afraid
are. Put
to
on body
get
fat.
to yeah, they're afraid to get leaner or looser with everything, and they're afraid they're going to lose all their definition and
Lines.
all that kind of stuff. And like, to an extent, I understand that, but you also have to realize, like, that's when your body's healthy. That's when you have that life balance, and you can sit back a little bit and you can enjoy the work that you put into your physique. Like, that's the other thing too. I'm like, this is the best I've ever looked in an off season ever, and I'm enjoying it. And I'm like, a big part of me is like, I don't want to diet again. Like, a big part of me is like, I like where I'm at. And like, that's why I had the conversation again yesterday with Jamie in my check-ins. This is about the upper echelon of where I like to be, as far as how soft I get and how, not lean. And again, it's a lot of it was bloat from period. So, but again, I was telling her, it's like, listen, this is my top end right here. And she's like, yeah, I understand that. Like, we'll make sure that we manage that and keep you where you like to live. You got to remember, you got to live outside of the sport. So it's okay to take a step back for a second. It's okay to realize that there's more than just being stage lean year round. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are afraid of that.
They are, and
Yeah.
I understand that too. I mean, you go through a very long, tough prep where the goal is, the scale needs to go down and new lines, and you're impressed with the lines that you see, and then
Yeah.
you're reversing it, you're losing lines, the scale's going up. And I'm going through this right now myself. I'm in a little improvement season. I've been doing some more intuitive eating. I
Yeah.
actually like the way I look right now. I'm carrying obviously more body fat, but I feel much better. I'm
Right.
not brain fogged. I have
Right.
energy. I'm sleeping
Right.
well. I'm getting date nights with my husband. And it's like,
Right.
being that lean is not a body to live in, and that's what
That's
I
right.
said to Jamie in my check-in. I said, I just went from December till now of like, I need to look stage lean 24/7. I just keep reminding myself I'm not supposed to look like I'm stepping on stage right now. She's like,
Right.
right, you're taking a
That's right.
break. Like, get your break, because when we open up the floodgates again, I need you locked in. So it's okay to know that you have to understand where you're at and what the goal is during that time. And I understand, especially that first shift, that first 4 6 weeks in improvement season, your body's changing so much because you just went from lean to now you're seeing yourself fuller and you're losing the abs and things like that, and it makes you think that you're doing something wrong
Yeah.
when really you're just trying to rebound back to normal. And this goes back to what Sean said in the very beginning of this podcast. It is very hard for us as athletes in off season to remember what normal is when you have
Yeah.
gotten yourself that lean. And it's something that I still struggle with. I don't think it's something that I'm going to know for sure until I'm fully retired and I figure out what works for me and what that look is. But it's skewed. Our
Yep.
perception of what's normal is skewed.
Yes.
That's of course, our job as coaches is to try to keep you as lean as possible, following your reverse diet and things like that. That's where a lot of people go wrong, is they blow their reverse diet and they add a lot of body fat, usually in
Mhm.
places they don't like to see, like their midsection, arms, hips, things like that. So those are their triggers. Those are their things that they look at on themselves. So they think that it's wrong or they look bad, etc. But follow your reverse. That's the
Yes.
number one thing. And number two is, you're not meant to look like that all year round. You are not meant to look like you need to step on stage all year round, nor are you going to improve that way either.
Something that I do that helps me with that. So I actually follow a lot of like the retired men's bodybuilders. Great example is Jay
Same.
Cutler.
Mhm.
And when you're looking at these men who put their bodies through hell forever and they still look great, it's because they continued the lifestyle beyond just competing. Most of
Yeah.
them, all of them have dropped the size. I mean, Dexter Jackson's another one. Gosh, what's the other
Ian
one?
Valeri literally just retired a year ago.
Yep,
Still looks insane.
looks
He's
great.
obviously lost size, but still looks
Yes,
insane and still
yes,
training, like
yep.
doing aerobic training
Dennis
now.
Wolf. Dennis Wolf is another one. Dropped a ton of size, but still looks really in shape and healthy and all that kind of stuff. So those are the kinds of people I follow because I'm like, they have successfully transitioned to life after bodybuilding. You know what I mean? And like there is that where you can still be in shape and like the upper echelon of people in the world and things like that. They're not mass monsters anymore, but they still look fantastic. They still live the lifestyle. They still train every day. They still eat super healthy and clean. They still do all the things. They just don't compete anymore. So looking at people like that keeps me I guess not, I don't like the word motivation, I don't like the word motivated, but it keeps me disciplined. Right.
Grounded.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Well,
keeps you
how'd you get
disciplined.
competing in the first place, right? Because you love the lifestyle and you were
That's right.
already living a health and fitness
That's right.
lifestyle, and you were like, okay, I want to take it to the next level and I want to compete now. So when
That's right.
you're done, it's just the opposite. You take out the competitive aspect of it, but you still got to go back to your healthy habits that you had before
That's right.
competing. You're still going to go to the gym, you're still going to exercise, you're still going to eat right. You just maybe not be using a food scale every day. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So, but
Yes.
it's a transition. It's going to
Yep.
take time. You can't go from
Yep.
100 to 25% in a
Yeah.
day,
Yep.
like I ask Jamie all the time, who could probably step on stage in 6 months if she wanted to. The woman's got
Right.
amazing genetics. I said, what did that look like for you? Like,
Hmm.
when did you throw the scale away? She said it
Hmm.
took her about a year and a half, 2 years to like
Yep.
really be confident in not tracking anything, not, fully like, she's like, of course I went on vacation. I didn't take my scale or things like that. But when I was home, I was still, loosely tracking. And so that gives me an expectation, right? Like, it's not like I'm going to retire and be like, okay, cool, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm still going to have to follow macros probably for a year, 2 years, get myself into a maintenance mode. Like,
Right.
I'll probably gain a bunch of body fat and be like, okay, I don't like that. And then maybe I'll pull back and then try to find what that looks like maintenance wise for
Right.
me.
That's right.
But it takes trial and error like anything.
Yeah. And I mean, a good example of that too is I again have another one of my clients who's coming back to compete again in fit model. She competed in bikini years ago, hasn't done it forever. Her and her husband travel all the time. They do RV stuff, so they travel all over the place, like off the grid, like not even cell phone signal and things like that. And I saw her pose for the first time in years yesterday, and she still looks great. I was like, I'll be honest with you. I said, you probably, if you pushed hard, I said you could be on stage in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I was like, if you want to do a normal, like simple, like steady prep, 12 weeks.
Yeah.
I said, but she's literally been off stage for God, like 7 years, something like it's been ridiculously long. I don't even remember how long ago it was when she got on stage last time.
That's
I was like,
incredible.
but I'm like, she's lived a normal life,
Yeah.
and she still looks phenomenal. And I'm just like, all right, this is great. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, this again, it's the first time I've actually seen her in a bikini in years. And I was like, shit. I was like, you could be on stage if you push really hard in 8 weeks.
Totally. All
So
right,
it's
guys,
definitely
I
the way.
do have to run. I
I
think
know we could talk all day.
Darren, could you open the door for Nikki, please? I got an athlete knocking. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. I know we started. We were gonna leave this in under an hour. We didn't make it, but that's okay.
It's okay. It's all right.
That's okay. So guys, listen.
There you go,
Tomorrow's
Nikki. Tell the
what's up?
podcasters. Do you have any words of wisdom?
Any words of wisdom? What was that? I missed it. What'd she say?
Have fun and enjoy it.
That was perfect because we talked about that. I love that. That's a great way to end out the podcast. So, guys, pay attention for Junior USA's prejudging tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. They do have a live stream, all of that. We're going to try to get this podcast out tonight so everybody has it for tomorrow. And let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens going into the show. I'm really curious to see how everything gets rewarded, and I'm excited to see who comes out as the new pros going to the pro league. So, with that, guys, like, comment, subscribe, hit the buttons wherever they are for episode 92. We are out with Behind the Bikini. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.